Okay, this is the diagnostic test questions number 7 and 8. So now we're going to talk about 7, which is multiplying of polynomials. In this case, x minus 5 is a binomial. It has 2 terms multiplied by a trinomial that has 3 terms. So we count terms basically by each term is separated by an addition or subtraction sign. And so this one has 2 terms, and this one has 3. And the only reason I bring that up is because it's very important to know how many terms you're dealing with to decide how to do the multiplication. So since this is a 2 by 3, basically every term in this one has to be multiplied by every term in this one. So if there's 2 terms in here, and they have to be multiplied by every 3 terms in there, that means there's to be a total of 6 terms in the initial answer before it is condensed, and then any like terms will take off the total number. But in the initial, you should get 6. Now, when you do this multiplication, you can use a technique that's going to organize that for you. So there's 2 techniques that I use. One is called the vertical method, and one is called the box method. But either one is going to give you the right answer. So let's start with vertical method first. Okay, so each of the terms in x minus 5 has to be multiplied by everything there. So I'm going to multiply x by everything, and it's going to be just a simple distribution. And then I multiply negative 5 times everything, and that's also going to be a simple distribution. So let's distribute. Okay, first one's going to give me x to the third minus 6x squared plus 2x. Alright, on to the next box. Okay, the second distribution is going to give me negative 5x squared. Now look where I'm writing it. I'm going to write it immediately underneath the 6x squared. So I want to make sure that I'm lining up like terms right from the get-go. Okay, let's keep going. So negative 5x squared plus 30x, and then this minus 10 at the end, sorry to go into the next box, is by itself. So it's almost like a staircase effect. Then I'm going to add straight down. X to the third, negative 6 and negative 5 is negative 11x squared. Remember to keep the exponents the same, plus 32x minus 10. And that's our final answer. Just as easy as that. Some people like to do the box method as well. It's just a different way of organizing it. So if I know that I have 3 terms in one and 2 terms in the other, I'll organize it in a grid. 1 term per row or per column. So I'm just going to separate this a little bit. And then I'm just going to do the multiplication toward the box. So x times x squared is x to the third, 6x times x, and so on. I'm going to get the same 6 terms, right? Because we said there has to be 6. But the advantage of the box method is that you have some patterns. Okay, if you have your terms written in standard form and they're in descending order of powers and you haven't skipped any, what you'll find is that the like terms are on this diagonal here, and then you'll have the first and last ones being by themselves. It's actually not an accident. It's something that we study in Algebra 2 and part of your pattern study as well. So let's combine those like terms. Standard form, highest power first, x to the third minus 11x. I'm adding along the blue line. 30 and 2 plus 32x minus 10. So you get the same answer. So either way you choose to organize it, it's really up to you. Okay, now I'm just going to erase this so I can have room to do number 8, but the answer's still here if you need to reference it. Okay, so now some pattern multiplication. Okay, so this right here is a pattern called conjugates. C-O-N-J-U-G-A-T-E-S, conjugates. And conjugates are when you have a sum and a difference of the same two numbers, a and b, the same two terms, I should say, a and b. So we have a 2x and a 5, but one's 2x plus 5 and one's 2x minus 5. There's always going to be a pattern with that. The pattern for that is that when you multiply it, it comes out to be the first term squared, take away the second term squared. So I'll do it the long way, and the long way is just like the last exercise, number 7. But then if you use this special pattern here, you'll see how you can save yourself some time. We're all about saving time in this course. So, if I do 2x minus 5 times 2x plus 5, and I do with, I'll do it the box way because we can see all the terms. Okay, so this is a. Right? Every term has got to be multiplied by every term. Okay, so it's 4x squared minus 10x, and minus 25. Now look, if I see the first box, and the last box are gotten by multiplying the same thing together, 2x times 2x and 5 times 5, hence the square part. Right? The middle terms end up being 5 and 2x, but one's a plus and one's a minus. And when I add those off, those conveniently disappear. And that's why it's just the first term squared. So basically 2x squared. Take away, because one's a minus, the 5 squared. And that becomes 4x squared minus 25. See, it always works. So, the next time you see something like this, you can go, oh, well, that's just 2x squared, and then take away 5 squared, and then simplify that rather than having to do the whole thing. But that's your option. Okay, so let's do B. This is another pattern, which comes up a lot, which is squaring a binomial. There's a pattern for this too, and I'll describe it to you here. So first, that pattern is the first one squared plus the second one squared. I have a reason for putting that at the end. And then double the first times the second. So the middle term is always going to be a double. Okay, that's the pattern. Let's do the problem. So this is going to be x minus 4 squared. Now what you want to remember first is that please don't do this. Okay, we know that squared means you have to multiply it out by itself. Okay, so really, x minus 4 squared is just a condensed version of this. X minus 4 times x minus 4. See that? So that's a 2 by 2, and again, it'll work with the box. Okay, but again, watch the patterns as I do this. X times minus 4, x times minus 4. First is x times x, that's x squared. That's kind of where we saw that first part squared. Okay, minus 4x minus 4x. Now the product of 4 and x is 4x. There's 2 of them, hence the 2 times the first times the second. 2, 4x's is 8x, and the last term squared will end up here, plus 16. So we've gone down to 3, but not 2. X squared minus 8x plus 16. Okay, so it's almost like I'm looking at this and going, oh, x times x, that's x squared. I know if I multiply these, I get 4x. Let me put 2 of them, minus 8x, and then I'll square the last one, which is just 16. Okay, so if you memorize these patterns here, you'll save yourself a lot of time in the future.